Hi, topic today is how to deal with your very own HARVEY. I have the pleasure of welcoming Xiu Xuan of AWARE. AWARE is Association of Singapore's leading gender equality advocacy group. I'm Laila from Singapore. I created Life by Laila so we can share issues that are in our face but hardly talk about. Those are called taboo subjects. So if you like this show, please comment while we are on the show with the thoughts or questions that you have, or kindly share it. Without further ado, let me bring Xiu Xuan. I don't want to get her name wrong, so that's why I keep reading. So Xiu Xuan, let me bring you on, and it's a pleasure to have you. Let's talk about a little bit about who you are and what you do to the audience that's watching, please.
Yes. Hello, thanks for inviting me to be here today. It's really a pleasure to be here. Yeah, I'm excited to be sharing more about this topic and also our work at the Sexual Assault Care Center, which is under AWARE. So what we do, AWARE is this organization that provides support services to women and advocates for women, and we advocate for women's rights in Singapore. So the Sexual Assault Care Center, or SACC, is a part of the support services that started in 2014. And we are the only specialized center in Singapore that provides support to survivors of sexual assault. So the services that we provide include counseling, support group, free legal information sessions for survivors to understand from a lawyer their legal options, what they can do about their situation. And we also have befriending services where we accompany survivors to the police station, to hospitals, or to the court. So I work with sexual assault survivors to process with them what has happened and to let them know their options, what they can consider for the next steps. So before I go on to talk more about the main topic today, sexual harassment, I wanted to highlight two things. First is a disclaimer. Our work here is important and relevant, but they may not represent the full spectrum of sexual assault cases in Singapore. And the second thing is, because this discussion can be quite sensitive, if anyone watching feels uncomfortable or they feel triggered, don't hesitate to exit. Or if you want to talk to someone, you want to call our center, you can call us at 6779-0282 to speak to a trained professional.
Wow, thank you for that. I will put up all the context later on in this show. Let's get to the first thing. I'm so sorry, I'm like a one-man show. So the first question that I want to share with the audience is that it has always been around, right? This sexual assault and sexual harassment. So why the fuss now? Can you help me put some thoughts in this?
Right. So you're right that it has been happening around the globe and also here in Singapore. It's not something recent or something new. Our center I think in 2016, we saw about 338 cases. That's about one case a day. And last year it was about 1.5 times more, a little over 500 cases. And this barely scratched the surface of what sexual violence actually looks like in Singapore, because in 2014, we did a survey that looked at 500 youth experiences. So this was from 17 to 25 years old. And what we found was 1 in 3 youth actually reported experiencing some form of sexual violence. So really the numbers that we see at our center, it barely scratched the surface. And of course, recently we see there is this global movement, the #MeToo movement. It was successful because although, in the past years, we have individuals, groups, organizations, we have spoken up, we talk about this issue of sexual violence. But really the Me Too movement, it was successful in that it provided a platform for us to congregate and amplify women's voices. So 12 million posts in 24 hours. That is really a massive number. So it made a lot of people recognize that no matter which part of the world that you are in, sexual violence happens, and it is quite prevalent. Yeah, so it has always been happening. So the fast now is really, fortunate or unfortunate, a celebrity spoke about it. We have like political scandals that arose like out of this Me Too movement. People really start to, bring up their experiences, to speak out about their experiences. So it has always been happening. And the fast now is, yes, popular, big celebrity figures. They start getting all these accusations, and then it just flows down.
So if you say that it's been around, and my biggest shock in the whole statement that you shared with us is now youth are seeing it at 17 years old, and this is a very developed, Singapore is a very developed country, so we are more progressive in our education. And why do you think that is happening? I mean, during my great-grandmother's time, I can understand it. But why do you think this is still happening, especially with youth?
Yeah, I think there are two reasons to this. One is the nature of the issue of sexual violence. It seems like surrounding this issue, when the Me Too movement, even in Singapore, men and women, they start to see like really the women around me, they actually experience something like this. Many of them, they were shocked by the prevalence of this. And what this really speaks of is the volume, it's the massive denial that we can say, sure, I have an inkling that sexual violence happens, but we deny that how prevalent it is. Like we always hear this excuse of, surely it's just a small number, and maybe it's just a few bad men that is doing this, or like, Singapore is really safe. So we see that, yes, we recognize this, but there's also a denial when it comes to a crime like sexual violence. So on youth, why this has been happening, I think, although now in public schools we have we have sex education, but more needs to be done. So we need to have more on consent education, and to actually speak to youth about what consent means, and what respecting boundaries, what does that look like. So I think although there has been progress that has been made, but more needs to be done on this.
So when you say schools, so currently, where do you guys do the movement where you go and speak to schools, right? Or no?
Yes, I think for our community engagement, we engage some local schools to talk about violence against women. So not on sexual violence, but we do bring in consent. But we have another program, which is the comprehensive sexuality education. So this is currently being more brought to international schools, but we do have plans to actually expand this so that perhaps we can get more local students to come for this program. Yeah, because we see that there is a need for youth to understand more about consent and respecting boundaries.
Wow, that's fantastic. So I'm going to ask you next question is, how do you define sexual harassment?
So many behaviors can be interpreted as sexually harassing. It depends on the circumstances. So like, for example, if you're in the workplace and then a colleague comes to you and then you're wearing a new dress and then he says like, hey, nice dress. Then you say thank you. For some, this is mutual. So this is just a mutual exchange. That he's not crossing any boundaries. But for others, they may perceive it as why are you commenting on the way I dress? Like maybe it's like he's been staring at you for too long, or this comment. So it really depends on the circumstances and how it is perceived. So sexual harassment, there's two components. One is intent. Did he intend for this to alarm or cause you distress? Another one is perceived. Like whether do you see this as something that you're uncomfortable with, that you are being disrespected, or is this invasive to you? And if it's in the workplace, another question that you want to ask is, this behavior, is it affecting or preventing you from doing your work? So if any of these questions you answer yes, that it is yes, disrespectful, or yes, it is invasive, then yes, this behavior can be interpreted as harassment. Yeah, so for sexual harassment, there is that element of that it has to be of a sexual nature. Yeah.
Okay, because now I think that it's kind of difficult. A courtesy exchange where you look good, nice suit, you know, and then it becomes a sexual harassment to nice dress, you look great. So people are more careful about giving compliments, but you have defined it where, you know, you say thank you, but then what's the intention behind that, right? Is that right?
And how it is perceived. So if let's say, yeah, I think if let's say people, if they're scared or worried that, oh God, like when I say this, is this going to be like sexual harassment? A very simple thing to do is simply ask. Like if you see, like, or you just look at their body language, like do they look uncomfortable? And if they do, just ask them, oh, you know, I meant this as a compliment. Does this make you uncomfortable? And if they say yes, like it does, then you apologize and move on from that. So if you're unsure whether it's sexual harassment, just ask. Yeah, because if this continues, or if after they say no, you continue, then that is another matter altogether.
Yeah. Okay. So also, you know, sometimes I always say that it depends on who you like. If you is somebody that likes you, or you like them, and then you call it admirer. But if you don't like them, then you call them a stalker, right? So it's how you perceive, right?
Yes.
So it's how you take. If you like the person, then it's a compliment. If you don't, then you will find anything that it's what they say. It's not a compliment.
Yeah, it's unwelcome. Yeah. So yes, exactly. So do you welcome this, or do you feel that it's unwelcome? So it's really on how you perceive it, how it is perceived.
So what do you do with that? If you're in a working environment, what are the steps to take when you feel uncomfortable? It's not just the first time. Do you let it go for the first time, or you wait for the third time? What are the steps that somebody can take?
So in terms of steps to take, usually you can think about whether you want to actually brush it off and wait. So in certain cases, they may work because maybe it's a one-off thing and then they don't come back and share this comment again. Another thing to do is you can either call it out, or you can ask your colleague for help, or you can actually just state boundaries, or like at the workplace, or if they are texting you and telling you things that you really don't want like to know about them, that actually crosses like into the personal boundary, then you can just let them know that, no, hey, let's just keep this about work, or we can just keep our exchanges over email. So you can draw boundaries. And if it escalates and it continues to get worse, then you can maybe consult your manager and discuss what is a possible solution. And this can be done like with the manager, like what can we do? Yeah, so there are steps that you can take within the workplace. But if you're talking about outside the workplace, what are your options? Of course, there is, under the law now, in 2014, they passed this act. It's called the Protection from Harassment Act. So under this act, you can actually get a a protection order. You can get a protection order or a non-publication order. These are the more important ones to remember. To stop the harassment. So for non-publication order is that if they posted something about you online that is false or is sexually explicit, that you don't want it out there, then under this order, if you apply for this, then you can, under this order, they will be ordered to take it down. And then for protection order, what they will do is to actually get them to stop the behavior or the communication, of sexual harassment.
Wow. So this started when?
2014. Yes, but under this is one, and then for a long time under the penal code, there is another law that looks at outrage of modesty and insult of modesty. So it gets quite technical, but there are legal options that we can explore with anyone that has experienced harassment. Yeah.
So you guys, AWARE is an organization that if you feel, I mean, in the workplace, you have already given us the steps where you can talk to the manager or HR or whatever the company as a safe place to go to. But when you're outside, is AWARE the first place that we go to, or we make a police report?
Right. Of course, it's good that if you can come to us, because what we will do is to actually share with you what the police process is like. Of course, if you want to make a police report, it is your choice. But what is important is to be informed about what the process looks like. Because a lot of times, perhaps people, they feel that, yes, I will make a police report and that is that. But, you know, within that process, there is like the statement, the interview, and then the second interview having to go through a lie detector test, and then questioning, calling witnesses. All these things needs to be considered when you're making a police report, because it is not just the one time, that one day you spend at the police station, but the process can get quite lengthy, and the investigation process can take up to like 3 to 9 months. Yeah, so this is all something that they need to consider when they are making a report. So to make an informed choice, we would usually ask them to come down to the center to speak to us first and to explore these routes, even if it's at the workplace, because it is their choice whether they want to go to HR or actually they don't want to, because there is this fear of retaliation, especially in the workplace where your job security is also at stake. Yeah, so in any case, if someone has experienced something that they're unsure of their experience or unsure of what to do, then our center can provide them with the relevant information.
Okay. So like you say, now I feel that that's almost what do you call it? A backlash against women. I think it was 2016 or maybe at the end of 2015 where all this movement from the West started happening, right? So now men are more on their toes, and there's a backlash. For example, when I was featured recently in the media, I dressed, I've been dressing the way I dressed anyways since the beginning of time. But most of the comments were coming from men where they are saying, oh, don't look, but can't touch, or, it's like snide remarks, which was a big surprise to me, because now it's coming more from men. When we talk about women, we always assume women are jealous, insecure. But now, do you think that men are now more resentful because they have to walk on tiptoes?
I think in some cases, sure, but I think those are rare cases that men actually become more resentful. Perhaps they are more careful, but I also do see that there are cases of men that are stepping up. They recognize that, hey, I need to do something about this situation, because I see this online, I see this around the women that I know, and I want to do something. And, from the Me Too movement, there are Singaporean men that they have written into the forum, like the Straits Times forum, to actually talk about, like, how men, they need to step up. So I think there are positives and there are downsides to this movement, definitely.
Right. I think for a woman like me, I'm not speaking for the rest of the women that's watching, but for me, because the way I dress, I will, get any comments anyway. So for me, I don't care about the comments. I just was more shocked that it's coming from men. If I dress like this, I would almost expect somebody to say something. I cannot be naive enough to think that, nobody's going to say it, but this is my choice, because I'm a strong individual. I don't care. But there are people that are not the same wavelength. But I was just a bit shocked bringing the subject of what I want to bring up, which is Gloria Steinem. She's an icon, right? She's always said we've begun to raise daughters more like sons, but few have courage to raise our sons more like daughters. So I think this is a great way where we've been raising our kids, because I have my 2 girls. I've always tell my girls, you can do it, this, don't worry about it, you can be as good. But I think with sons, we always assume that the boys are mightier than the girls. So I think if now the parents have to start talking to the boys, hey, you know, watch how you talk to women, keep your hands to yourself, be more respectful. And I'm sure there are parents that's been doing that. But now it's in your face that you have to raise the boys the same way we have raised kids, right? Yeah. Do you think that that needs to change in society? Because especially in Asia, the boys are the ones that, you know, the breeding of the line, the names, and to bring the names, you know, to bring forward their names.
Maybe I feel that for like the consent education, it helps to actually teach this to both boys and girls. That perhaps, you know, for girls, like what we teach them, like sometimes in some cases that we've heard is like don't dress a certain way, or you know, yeah. So there are still these comments. So a lot of this comes down to like the gender stereotypes and the gender roles. Like girls have to behave a certain way and boys have to behave a certain way, or like, you know, it's okay for boys to do whatever that they want, like boys will be boys. So we heard excuses like this. So it's high time that I feel that we can get rid of these notions, but gender norms on its own need to constantly challenge them. And it is great, like you said, that some parents, they have taught their boys about, you know, consent, about respecting boundaries, but this needs to be institutionalized. Like in schools, what is being taught, it needs to be part of the curriculum to talk to both boys and girls what consent looks like, and what respecting boundaries look like. Because if, let's say, we look at even like in the media, a lot of the movies, both boys and girls, they watch these movies, and like especially for romantic comedies, there's always this scene of how you know, the girl at first she rejects, and then the boy just tries harder, and then in the end they get together. So like, yeah, like this storyline needs to change, because usually in reality, when girls we say no, we're not interested, it really means we are not interested. It's not like a ploy to get you to try harder. Yeah, so all these things, they need to be addressed.
Right, you're absolutely right. I didn't think about that. But also social media made it easier for people to impose on people, right? Like I get messages, I can only speak for myself, I can't speak for others. As old as I am, I still believe that there's boundaries that people need to know. And it's like, oh, you know, I don't know you, and you send like, oh, I want to kiss you. And I like, whoa, you know, even though it's on social media, but still, what gives you the right to think that you can impose that on a person, especially you don't know? So social media is great to connect people, but also it destroys the moral values of what boundaries are and we're supposed to follow.
Yeah, it's interesting because like in last year, we actually, from our data, like the people that have access services at our center, when we looked at this data, what we found was that 1 in 5 cases from our sexual assault care center involve technology. So 1 in 5. So whether it is like through contact based, like, you know, WhatsApp messages, whether it is using photos or videos to sexually harass or threaten or coerce somebody. So 1 in 5 cases involve technology. So yes, it has folded into like the practices of like sexual violence, but we also see that technology has also helped women to document their experiences of sexual harassment. So for example, recording, taking down. There are ways.
So can we touch on this? I saw, I think a couple of days ago, I can't remember where it was, but in the West, I would just say in the West, this woman at a festival, she was walking around with her breast out, and the guy just groped her and ran away. So she walked up to him and hit him. So I've got a lot of different opinions from people that I know saying that, well, she shouldn't be walking around naked like that. And she's saying that it's my body, I'm at a festival. And there was a conflict of opinions, right? And also it's cultural, because I think in Africa, there's certain parts of Africa, women walk around topless and it's acceptable. I'm sure, there are harassment everywhere, no matter where you are as a woman. And in Bali, a long time ago, the Balinese women walked around topless. But in the West, it's almost not acceptable unless you go to Germany. There's a naked beach, and somewhere in France where it's acceptable. So where does that, how do we put that in sexual harassment or?
Yeah, I think there is feedback.
There's feedback from my side?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't hear feedback from your side or my side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. I understand a little bit. But on this topic, we need to recognize that sexual violence or sexual harassment, it's really not about sexual attraction. So it is not about what you were wearing, how you were behaving, what you were doing. This is about power and control. So like when the perpetrator sees like a woman, like, her breast is hanging out, what gives him the right to do this? Like, it's like he feels that perhaps like this woman, like she's just being who she is, and he's affected by it. So to exact control and power over the situation, he chose to grope her. Yeah, so we need to recognize that it is not about sexual attraction, because in many cases, in some cases that we've seen of harassment, women they decided to change the way they behave, or they changed the way they dress. Like they wore baggy clothes, they wore plain clothes, they took off their makeup. The harassment didn't stop. It didn't stop because it's not about how you look. It's not about how you're dressing. It's about the perpetrator and how he's actually trying to exact power and control over you.
Yeah, you're right. I totally agree, because I had a discussion with my two girls, and they go like, "Mommy, even if you cover up, they're gonna harass you. They're gonna grope you. If they want to do it, they're gonna do it, right?" Which is absolutely true. So the mindset has to change. I think I think for me, I'm a great believer of changing it at home first. It's not the state's job or the school's job. If they do it, it'd be great compliment to how the society will become. But I think it has to come from home. Parents need to change the way their mindset is.
Yeah, I agree that it starts from home, but really the change that we see, it comes from so many levels, like, from home, in the community, and then the policies that we see. I think all this plays a role, because when we think about like the laws, like recently an article that came out was about the insult of modesty, and how insult of modesty is essentially under the penal code. This guy, he was sexually harassed, but it was non-physical. And then under this law, they actually said that men cannot be insulted. They cannot be insulted. So it is not gender neutral. So all this, again, because of this, the laws and policies, how men see themselves, like in terms of if sexual harassment happens to them, there is an added layer that they feel like, even the law, like I am not protected. So that it translates. Yeah, it trickles down. So all this impact, like when we talk about change, it needs to happen at different levels.
Right. So you're right. But for me, even if society, like I said, if there's a synergy of everybody working together, it would be fantastic. Then it will work.
Right.
But if the outside, the government, the law is saying this, and your friends are saying this, but at home, your parents say, you're a boy, don't worry about it. You're supposed to do this. Then it doesn't. It's how you see your family. You've grown up with your family more than you see your friends or society. So for me, it'd be wonderful. The world be a better place if everybody comes together and work for a better society. but unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So you covered, I was going to ask you, is sexual harassment only targeted at women? But you covered that.
No, yeah, I mean, of course, like men, they are affected as well, but we need to again recognize that when it comes to sexual violence, the ones that impacted the most, affected the most are women. Yeah, so this is a gender issue. Yeah, it's not like women are disproportionately affected by this.
Okay, so that's men against women, right? So what about women against women?
Women against women. Sexual harassment. Yeah, I believe this happens as well, but it's rare. I don't think I've encountered a case like this. But yes, surely it happens as well.
Yeah, I think it's also difficult. So from conversations that I have with people, sometimes it's more difficult for men to come forward being sexual abused or sexual harassed because of the gender. You know, they're the men; they're not supposed to be beaten, or sexual harassment. But also for women on women, because it's not. You don't report it because you're too ashamed also. So I think we need to take away this shameful, whether it's women, men, or
Yes.
whatever, take out, because it doesn't matter what gender it is. Abuse is still abuse. Assault is still.
Yes, and we need to recognize that sexual violence, how it impacts survivors. So, like you mentioned, shame, guilt, doubt, in denial, all this. There is a wide spectrum of how survivors can feel. So another thing to note is that because there is a spectrum, there is no one picture of what a survivor looks like. Or always we see pictures of people crouching, or really dark photos of like hysterical crying. That is just one picture of what a survivor may look like. Yeah, many of them, some of them, they may not show any emotion at all. Some of them, they may be angry, be confused. So there is a wide spectrum of how survivors behave, and that is something that we need to recognize. Yeah.
So if you know somebody who is sexually abused, whether it's a friend, whether it's a family, what as an outsider what steps could you do? Because then there's two sides. It's none of your business. We are raised. It's none of your business. It's their life. And then the other side is like, yeah, but I know this happening. I'm supposed to be helpful in our society. Do I wait until that person? Because there's so many times that there's people die, and then people are like, oh, I wish I had. Or somebody's truly, truly hurt. So what are your advice on this? What can be done to help this?
So if someone, you notice that something is different about the person and they have not disclosed it to you, the first thing that you can do is ask them if anything's going on, and that you're there to support them. So they just know that you're available, but give them the choice whether they want to share with you or not. It's ultimately up to them, because when it comes to sexual violence, it is not easy for anyone to talk about it because of the shame, because of the guilt, because of the doubt. So many things, they may be experiencing many emotions, and it's not easy for them to talk about it. But in the case where someone has already told you that something has happened to me, I was sexually assaulted, or someone said something or did something to me, there's 4 ground rules, very simple ground rules that we can use. So the first thing you can let them know is it's not your fault. It's not your fault what has happened. It doesn't matter what you were wearing. It doesn't matter how you were behaving. It doesn't matter what you were doing. It is not your fault. And then the second thing is it's your choice. It's your choice whether you want to make a police report. It's your choice how much you want to tell me. because sexual violence is a crime where their power, their agency has been taken away from them. So at every stage, give them the agency back, give them the power. So always let them know that it's their choice what they want to do. The third thing is let them know, I mean, it's their experience. So don't compare experiences or say things like, oh, you know, this was just a comment, or he just brushed your leg. I mean, think about like the worst cases out there. Don't make comparisons. But no matter what they went through, their experience and their feelings and emotions, it is valid. So it's their experience. And the last thing to you can share with them is, I am here to support you. Just let them know that you're there. So 4 simple ground rules. It's not your fault. It's your choice. It's your experience. I am here to support you. Yeah, so this 4 things.
Those are great. Let me type it down so people can see. I'm here to support you. So do you think that this organization, so talk about a little bit about AWARE, how long has it been around in Singapore?
It has been here, I think last year we celebrated 32nd. I mean, okay, 30 over years then, because I am, yeah, not so sure. I think it's 32. 32. Maybe someone might come by to tell me. But yeah, I think 32 years. And our support services has been here, we've started 25 years. Last year we celebrated 25th year of the helpline. So this is a women's helpline that women at any stage of your life, any point where you feel confused, unsure, you're in a crisis, you can call this helpline. This is different from our sexual assault care centers helpline. This is a 1-800 number, which is easy to remember. It's 1-800-777-5555. So this number is for any women to call in. For about
wow.
Any, yeah.
Okay, so I will put this out later on for the number. That's really, really helpful. So what are, can you share some stories that, without naming any incidents that, if it's okay, if it's not, you know, just ignore the questions, that it's something that really new and, I mean, it's happening, sexual abuse and sexual assault, harassment has been around, but it made a change when they approach you guys, that changed their life.
I think that's a huge testament. Like to find someone to say that we changed their lives. We have received many like after we've worked with them, and then they come back to actually share with us like how we have helped them, how they feel supported. There is actually a video that if you go on our website, the Sexual Assault Care Center's website, we have done a video on how people can reach out to us about survivors' experiences. So I cannot share one particular one, but this video, I think it will give like a good idea of how we have support survivors.
Wow, that's fantastic. I think what you guys are doing is really, this is a non-profit organization, am I correct? So I think that it's wonderful that what you guys are doing, because I think when you go to work and you get paid, it's a different story. You hate your life, you hate your job, and when you do non-profit, you know, you do it because you want to help somebody, even though you think you don't, but there is somebody that out there that you touch, and I think that's the most incredible thing that you guys are doing, and it takes a toll on the emotion sides also. Because how do you deal with it on your side, I mean, you and your colleagues, you know, because you see this day in, day out.
So self-care is definitely very important, and we have like, actually this year, we have a case manager. She will look at, you know, provide us with like a workshop, to give us a workshop on like how to take care of ourselves, because like you said, it is very emotional. And of course, on support services, we have a lot of counselors, so it may come very naturally to them, like what can be done to cope. Because when we work with survivors, many times we are where they unload like how they're feeling, what they've been through, and we need to take care of ourselves as well, because it is possible to get this thing called secondary PTSD. So like we are also we can experience some trauma symptoms from just working or like listening to them, to their stories.
But are your jobs dangerous?
Dangerous in what sense?
In the sense that, like for me, if I've been sexually abused or sexually harassed, and I come to you and you help me, you know, with all the steps, right? And then my partner or the person that was abusive towards me or harassed me found out. Sorry, that's my alarm. So have they found out that you were helping? Has the organization ever been threatened by a certain individual or group?
For Sexual Assault Care Center, no, I would say we haven't had, but I'm not sure it's because, I'm not sure whether it's because I'm still relatively new here, so I haven't heard any stories, so there may be, yeah.
Right, but do you think that the more we talk about things, the less it lessens all this unacceptable behavior? Is it important to talk about it?
Yes, absolutely. I think when we had a conversation just now, and then you said something about how you know, these things, they shouldn't be taboo, and I think you're absolutely right that they shouldn't be taboo. Yeah, conversations about sexual violence, it needs to be had because we need to have a better understanding about what is the nature of sexual violence, how it impacts survivors, and only when we have conversations that we can start to unpack and address all these issues.
What do you hope to see change?
Oh, there are so many. There are so many. I mean, like, you want to talk about laws, policies, you want to talk about community attitudes. But of course, the first thing is, the most important, I would say, is for every one of us, we are a friend or we are a family member to someone in our lives. And then when it comes to sexual violence, many times people will first approach like their close friend or their loved ones to actually disclose what has happened to them. So for them to reach out for further support, what is very important is the first response. The first response to the survivor is very, very important. So the 4 statements that I shared just now, it's not your fault, it's your choice, it's your experience, I am here to support you. These 4 statements, it's very, very important when someone discloses their experience to you. So if just one person can use any one of these 4, I think that is already like it's a huge change and a good change.
That's a great way to advise people. So I'm gonna talk about my own experiences with friends. Okay, for me also, I was in a marriage. Let's not talk about my friends for that, where it became abusive, and I stopped it because I couldn't. He was not well. He was not mentally well. So I put a stop to it because I think for me, number 3 is a big deal. After the 3rd time, my kids were in the house, so I had to stop it because I don't want my kids to think that it's okay. Whatever the excuse is, if he's not well, mentally well, or whatever, it still happened. And I took charge in changing my life. But with friends of mine that I've known that were in a sexual abusive relationship, it happens. You help, you respond, you help, and you take them to the hospital with broken ribs and all this, but a few times, 3 times, and then they still keep going back. As a person that's outside, what advice do you give to people that are involved in helping people, but you see no change?
I think that's quite a difficult one. What you can do is to be there for them, because there's no one but them that can make the choice to actually leave the situation. So no matter how much we want, I think especially as friends, or like we see people that we love in situations like this, we would want to, you know, intervene and actually like do something for them. But ultimately, we need to recognize that it is their lives and it is their choice. So we can be there, and then at every point, like when they come to you and say things like, you know, this has happened again, and you know, when they say they wanted to stop, and that is where you can tell them that, okay, so these are like the resources that you can reach out to AWARE, you can talk to someone there, you can talk to a counselor. So there are many points where you just have to pick the time, and also like, you know, to just constantly be there and remind them that there are other options for them, not just staying. Yeah, but
I think that.
Yeah,
sorry.
Just to add that if they make the choice to stay, I think I've seen some cases where people get resentful for their friends for staying in certain situations. And what is important is that they are already in a very difficult situation and they need the support that they can get. So for you who is supporting, if you find that there is resentment or like, you know, why is my friend just like, you know, doing this, why is she doing this to herself, hold on, like hold those thoughts and just don't verbal, like don't tell them that, you know, that don't blame them for not trying to leave. Like it is their choice. Remember that it is their choice.
Yeah. But I think it's also great because as much as it's family or friends, you are very connected and you get very emotional about it. So when you get emotional, your rash is, you know, get out. You know, what's wrong with you? You know, you don't know why people stay. There's so many reasons why people stay in a relationship, whether it's financial, whether it's the kids or whatever. I think for you to give a different light that, hey, you know, there is an organization, there are experts that can put you, you can put in touch with and help them because there are basic steps to this that we don't understand. Because for us, it's very, you know, rational, like, come on, you know, get out of it. You know, what's wrong with you? That's the first question. But he did that, right? So I think that's really, really good of you to give that step. And very, very clear perception, help for people that's listening in. So I want to give you another scenario. So now we have this great movement, the Me Too movement, that women are speaking up and taking charge and taking control. But there are also cases where women are taking advantage of this, where women are calling it sexual assault or harassment. And then to get the boys in trouble or whatever because when men do it because they think they can do it. With women, it's normally with intention, I think, to the boss's son or the boss, my boss, or whatever it is, right? And then where do you go from there with people that make false accusation?
I think
women
yeah, I think when it comes to like false accusations, false reporting, a thing to remember is that it doesn't benefit anyone. Ultimately, it does not, like false reporting, it does not have any benefits to anyone. And this may happen, but again, it's very rare and it's quite a small number of cases. So when someone chooses to speak up about like the harassment or like what has happened to them, the sexual assault that has happened to them, we need to give them that space and the voice to actually say this, and then see what are the options that they can do to address it. Because when it takes a lot for someone to say, hey, like something like this, they have to overcome the shame, they have to overcome the guilt, they have to overcome that denial that it is happening, and we need to recognize that. So, sure, false reporting there is, but when it comes to false reports, you also think about, hey, like going through the reporting process, it's not that easy. It's lengthy and can be quite tedious to keep on repeating your stories. So it really benefits nobody in the end, like false reporting.
Yeah. I want to ask you, in Asia, we brush off a lot of things in Asia, right? I speak for myself. Like whatever's happened, because the guys are the king in the house, and they're just joking. You know, they don't mean it. We were raised to brush it off, right? Do you think that the Me Too movement has changed a lot of Asian women's mindset, especially in Singapore?
I think mindsets Definitely, I think in some cases, we have seen changes within that month when I think Me Too happened. I think we saw about like double the number of cases that came to us. So I do see that there is an impact of Me Too, that women are starting to recognize that, this is not something that I want to brush off, or like actually I have options. So I do see that there is this impact, but how wide or the extent of this impact, I don't know. But I do see that there is a change.
But there's also a joke speculating when I talk to some people that they go like, because I say, hey, there's a lot of Me Too's, right? It almost everybody is a Me Too. But they say, well, have you heard of Not Me? And I said, no. He says, well, the person that's not me is not attractive enough to be harassed. And I was like, whoa, that's already wrong. There are people, whether they are attractive or not attractive, it's a matter of a power shift. That's what it's about. Like you said, dressing a certain way does not give the right to anybody, because people that are covered up still get molested, get sexually abused and harassed.
Yes, exactly.
So I think, but do you think what I am, like in Singapore, we've always said that we're a developed country. So all these cases should be very minimal. But as an Asian woman, we also have this stigma of, this feminism word. To be a feminist is already very vulgar. When the movement started, it was for the right reasons, to be equally paid, equally treated. But now, when somebody calls you a feminist, you go like, whoa, I'm not a feminist. And especially in Asian, you becoming a feminist is almost a vulgar word, because then you lose your, your daintiness, the whatever that's so docile that's associated with Asian women. So what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think when we use the word feminism, like sometimes the picture that comes to people's minds are like, like this woman, she's gonna burn a bra, they have many interpretations of what it means to be a feminist, and I think that applies to feminists as well. Like there is no one way to be a feminist. Like feminism for people, it differs, like how they interpret and define it, it differs from person to person. But what is important is that instead of the labels, what is it that we believe in? So for example, when we talk about sexual violence, what is something that we can all agree on? We can agree that this is something that should not happen in society. So when we want to have conversation, I would not go in and say, oh, hey, I'm a feminist, let's talk about sexual violence. But it's more of, on this topic of sexual violence, like we won't introduce with feminism, because I do see that has become like a barrier for certain people and to get conversations going. Yeah, so we will need to start from the point where, what is the common ground that we all have? What is something that we all believe in?
Do you think that we should not just, so now I understand where we're coming from, that we need to empower women. We need to teach women, to take charge, and in order to know what we allow and what we don't allow. It's all about us, how we perceive it, and we have to take control, basically. So do you think that it's fair to say we need to teach the men also? Like now there's a movement for women. Do you think that there needs to be somebody out there, a man, that takes over and teach their gender what is the right, what is the boundaries, what are the proper ways?
I think for men to be allies to women, sure, they can, like in many areas, especially in the workplace, they have the authority and the power to actually call out other men. But what is more important for men to do is that to recognize that you need to give the space to women to speak. So it's not about them taking over us, but us, we can work together, and then they can give us the space, because there are some space men, like they there is like perhaps only some men, they will listen to other men. So in those cases that they go in, they create the space for us to be there. So it is, I think, being a good ally, that's what it means, that you can have a conversation about this, but ultimately give that space to us. Yeah.
So do you think that all this gender, women and men, the only thing that we want is to be treated equally in everything that we do, in the sense that to be respected equally?
Respected equally? Yes, sure. I think for us, what it means, gender equality, is to both anyone. We want to see anyone, as long as you're living in this world, in this society, that you can reach the fullest potential. So whether you're a man or a woman, it's just that we need to remove all the barriers for us to equally be able to achieve our fullest potential. So it's not about like giving us like equal, what do they like to say, like. I will stop myself from saying those things. Yeah, sorry, I just have to thought that I will share later. But yeah, it's not about just having equal things, but it's just that about how can we make it such that all of us can equally achieve this, can achieve our fullest potential.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a matter of respect. If you don't want to be treated, it's a very simple rule. If you don't want to be treated like that, don't treat other people the same way that you are going to treat them badly, right? So if that makes sense. I think fortunately and unfortunately, we have gender, whether we like it or not, boys and girls, men and women, but ultimately we are human beings first, where you have to treat each other with respect more than anything else. So I think throughout the beginning of time, man has always been the powerful person. And I think for man also needs to know that they are the stronger built person in strength. There is no need to show your strength by hitting a woman, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I think the stronger you are, the weaker that you have to be in your emotions by taking care of the opposite sex. Or
Yeah, I think when it comes to men and masculinity, there is a need to redefine what it means to be strong, what it means to be a man. Yeah, that this is another conversation that will probably take some time. But yes, I do see that we need to redefine what masculinity means.
You know, it's really a pleasure to speak to you. Very eloquent, and if you don't mind, I like to share with the audience, because I think I'm still amazed at how eloquent you are and very well thought in your speech. Please tell the audience how young you are, because because we don't meet people, because we always call, the 20s are like, they're snowflakes, this and that, so let's talk a little bit about you before we sign off.
Yeah, I am 28 this year, and I've been in the nonprofit for 4 years now, since I've graduated. And yeah, I guess, but I do see that there are more youths that are joining the sector, and actually most of my colleagues, I think we are around like this age, like 28, early 30s. So yeah, there has been some changes. I don't feel like I am the only youth that is taking this step. Yeah.
But why this non-profit, when you can go and make, because you have a background in finance, you can make billions?
I don't know about billions, but I think when I saw what was the impact of the system that we live in, like society that we live in, the social issues that are out there, this is something that I wanted to work on, I wanted to address, and which is why I entered the nonprofit sector, and also after finance went on to study social sciences. So I wanted something that was more meaningful. It is not to say that finance was not meaningful. I feel that definitely it may be meaningful to people out there. But for me, what was meaningful was to actually work on these issues where I see people affected by the system, and how there are at so many levels systemic barriers for women, for people living in poverty, and yeah, the many social issues. Yeah.
Well, bravo to you. I'm so privileged and honored that you want to come on this show. I think that honestly, it's amazing because I have opinions. Everybody have opinions. We need somebody that has an organization that can put us on the right track on the steps. That's the most important thing. Everybody has opinions, but when it comes to your opinion, it doesn't matter when it becomes, something that's more serious, like sexual harassment, sexual assault. What can be done? Where can they go to seek help? On that note, I always end my show about what are you grateful for today? So can we ask you, what are you grateful for today?
I think definitely I am grateful for an opportunity to actually talk about this topic to more people, because we mentioned earlier about conversations, and I feel that having meaningful conversations about topics like this, sexual violence, which is not spoken about in our lives, I am really grateful for this opportunity. So even if there is just only one person that is listening to this, I feel that has already, it is already very impactful. So
I'm grateful for you coming to this show and agreeing to do this show. I learned a lot. Today, I'm very, very grateful for the knowledge that you pass on to me and to the audience. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me. Really, I'm glad that there is this platform that you've created to talk about issues like this.
So hopefully we'll get you back again on different subjects. I put you on the spot. Okay. On that note, thank you very much. Whoever is watching, I'll see you again next week. And thank you, Aware, Xiu Xuan. Yeah. Okay.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry. Thank you and see you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.